What is up, you guys? This is Will. In this interview, we have a very special guest, and I'm super excited for you guys to meet. With over 1,000 collectibles, almost 100 sets, he is a top 0.02% collectors on Veve. He's a whale, a Donny owner, and a great Veve friend of mine. If you're interested in learning from other people's mistakes, make better decisions, or if you're curious about the incredible whale stories that are not shared publicly anywhere else, this video has everything you're looking for. Dylan shares so many incredible stories about the off-app transactions between the Veve whales that go for tens of thousands of dollars, his mindset, his Veve journey, how he was able to acquire over 1,000 collectibles, how he bought Donnie and almost sold it to Dr. Profit, how he paper-handed ATOG, his stories on the mysterious 007 movie tickets, his biggest mistakes so that we can all avoid, and what's really interesting to me, and I bet to you as well, is the fact that Dylan is a part of a Telegram group with 20-something other people who have or have had the maximum set on Veve. It's gonna be a lot of fun, but keep in mind that none of this is a financial advice. Let's get to it. To those who don't know about you, how would you describe yourself?
I would say I am committed to Veve for sure. I haven't bought any other NFTs from like OpenSea and stuff. I guess I just don't understand, some of those projects. Some have great benefits for sure. So not knocking it, but Veve is where my heart is, definitely. For sure resilient, you got to take the highs and the lows. You got to be able to ride the waves. I mean, there's a lot of left hooks and stuff that they throw at us and a lot of FUD, and you just got to kind of battle through it and keep on going.
I think I noticed it you because I saw that back in March 2021, you already accumulated over 400 collectibles. And at that time, for me at least, I came into the app in late February. I was an idiot. I didn't buy anything from the store. And my first drop was a Nightwing, and I kind of stopped Veve and focused more on the Omi token for a while. But, over 400 collectibles back in March 2021 was a lot. So, and that says a lot about your early conviction in Veve. Where did that conviction come from? And why did you invest so much so early?
So I was talking to David just the other day in Telegram about this, and I mentioned to him that we got to get back to having more like live YouTube, video style. Just so we can see people, because it's good to see people. And I think the biggest thing that allowed me to kind of like invest so much was just seeing like Dan and Reese and David back then doing live videos. I mean, they were doing them almost once a week, and it was such good content, and just them talking about all the exciting things that were coming just kind of had me hooked. And I never bought any NFTs actually before Veve back then. I started on February 25th, and within 14 days, I had 460 collectibles. I bought things like Riso was my very first collectible. That was my very first thing I downloaded when I downloaded Veve. First thing I bought was Riso. Bought it straight out of the store. I bought things like 10 Todds, 10 Amanda Connors. I mean, I was stacking a lot of the black and white stuff initially. It's crazy that I didn't add any other Riso. And I think the reason why was because just like out of store, he was $80, whereas some other stuff was maybe $59.99 or whatever. And at that time, knowing nothing, and I mean, you got to keep in mind, there was only a few thousand downloads when I got started. So it was like a very new space or a new app. So to go so deep, so quick was crazy. It shocked me. It shocked my wife. For sure. She was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you buying?" at first, but then she jumped on board, and she's had my back ever since. So
that's a cool story. For me, when I came in at that time, it was just like a 3D figure, like the thought of paying $80 to buy just basically like an image was kind of wild for me. Did you have a collecting background?
Nothing. I've never collected anything, believe it or not. So when people talk like comics and stuff like that, first time I ever opened a comic book really was actually just the drop back in August, like Marvel 1. Like I never collected that stuff growing up. I always had an interest. I watched various shows, anime, different things like that, Naruto, One Piece, different shows like that. But I never really collected anything, believe it or not. So this was actually like my first stab at doing any of it. And just went crazy with a couple of friends, and I wasn't going to let one of them have more than me, I guess. I don't know. We just kind of competed friendly back and forth, you know. It was fun.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I think at that time the market closed for maybe a few weeks or something. So did you get those
Yes.
collectibles from off market as well? Because that's a lot of collectibles to get just from the store and from the on and off market, right?
Yeah. So the cool thing was, I guess when you and I first downloaded Veve, I guess because you're within the same week. Um, Todd, I have my same Todd that I bought, and so I bought number 318 just straight from the store. I mean, there were
Wow.
7,500, right? So there was still 7,200 of them left. The second one that I bought was at like 2,700. So probably a couple weeks later, people started chewing through collectibles as soon as like a few of them that were more recent got sold out. Then it created like this frenzy where you just bought anything that was still left in the app. It was very, very cool. That was within the first few months of last year. You just see like, Buttercup sold out, and then Blossom sold out because there's 1,000 more of it. And, a couple of those region locked collectibles. And once some of the black and white stuff, Riso, once he sold out, then the next thing was, Becky Coonan, 3250 of her, or that item, that version of Batman. And yeah, it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
nuts. Good
So
time.
when you bought the Batman Black and Whites, did you buy it because you believe because you thought NFT would be a pretty new kind of field where there's a lot of upside, or did you buy it because Batman and DC Comics, because of the brand and the superheroes that will resonate with millions of people?
I didn't think anything further than my friends were just like, dude, look at this one. This one's cool.
Hmm.
Riso is what it happened to be. It could have been any of the collectibles. And I probably, if my buddy Tanner was going to be buying one, I was probably going to buy one, and that's kind of what happened. He's just like, yeah, this one's awesome. And then one of my other friends, Shia, he was like, it's set one. You got to have that. Right. So, and then that's basically the reason why. And I understood Batman, I understood that idea, it's a huge name. It's going to have a lot of up, a lot of value in the future. And it's the first ultra rare in the app. So I started analyzing a couple of those things right away, just whatever I was drawn to, I was going to buy. So the first thing that I bought and won out of auction was Harley Quinn 19,
Hmm.
because when I downloaded the app, she was sold out. So that was one of maybe like the 10 items that were sold out of maybe 60 that were released at the time. But I really liked that one. So she was actually the first item that I won like at an auction for, it was 950 for gems. It was like my fourth day in the app. It
So
was crazy.
why? So I noticed that you buy many things from auctions. And for me, I feel like if you buy something from auctions, you have to have a very specific goal. You think that there will be certain deals in auctions that will not be available in the floor market. What is the reasoning for buying certain things from auction? I think you bought the number 45 common DeLorean from auction too, right?
Yeah, so that I won for 1,050. Yeah, mint number 45 of the DeLorean. And so when they did that drop and the common was accidentally released as drivable, I thought, okay, down the line in the future, VVVerse future, like thinking a couple years ahead, or I thought, of course, in 2021 we would have VVVerse last year, but not a big deal. But I knew that at some point, if that's a real happening thing, and we're all on Oculus or whatever, and you can get your avatar running around, and you can hop in a car and drive it around. I mean, if you have the first of the fifth, basically the top five
Mhm.
or lowest mints of the common DeLorean and be able to drive around, I thought that was pretty cool stuff. So that was kind of what drew me to that item. It's not that I really cared much about the DeLorean. I just wanted something that was like a lower mint, and I hadn't had anything really that was like a special mint prior to that at the time. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. If I win this auction, that's, for $1,000. I'm like, I'll take the chance, see what happens.
Yeah. Would you say so? You use auction because you want to get low mint, pretty much.
Yeah. So for that situation, yes, I did see that one up for auction. It started at maybe 600-700, something like that, and then just kind of climbed. Professor, I also got Professor for 550 out of the auction, so another item that was sold out. So most of the stuff that I got out of the auction was just stuff that was like sold out, very scarce. So Harley Quinn 19, Bubbles, I got one of those out of the auction. And then I also got that number 45 DeLorean, and then Professor, and then a few other things that were specific numbers that went. So my Donnie is mint number 144. So I think I also won a Cosmic Chatula out of there, or however you say that name. I won that item out of auction as well, because I seen that it was posted and it happened to be the same mint number. So I have 6 or 7 number 144s of various collectibles. So just chasing different things.
So between getting some items from the floor, I think for what you pay for a collectible from auction, you could have gotten yourself 3 or 4 collectibles from the floor. Why did you go with the auction route and not getting multiple mint from the floor?
Yeah, especially for that 45 DeLorean. I mean, oh my gosh, I could have bought 10 or 12 additional commons. But for me, I think that's just being sub 50 is such a cool thing. I think it's really cool if you can swing it, if you have some extra money laying around to have a couple of low items. I think there's high value in those items. People that are serious collectors with deep pockets, a lot more than we have, of course. I mean, they're the type of people that are going to want to be first or want to have that. There's a reason, Dr. Profit came in and bought number 15 and 16 of Riso. He's got the very first Risos that exist, the first 2. So he acquired those through a couple of bigger whales that I talked to on Telegram. We're in a private chat, actually. Paid very good money for them, but there's an importance of being lower, if you can be, for sure. To the right person. Most of the time I buy off the floor, for sure. If I'm like just stacking a set to stack a set, like currently, I'll sometimes go down a little bit, see something. If it's within 50 gems of the floor and it's a sub 1,000 mint, I'll grab that, of course, because I just like having a 0 out in front or 3-digit items. I think that's kind of cool. But most of the time I'm a floor shopper, believe it or not.
You would say that long term, you would get a better return getting one item that is slow mint rather than multiple items that is random mint, high mint. Would you say that?
In most cases, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. If you can get like specifically sub 50,
okay.
Sub 100 still has a good, 2 to 3x maybe. Some situations more. It just depends, and each collectible is definitely different.
Okay, that is a pretty good strategy, because for folks like myself, I don't have a lot of capital, so I always go for the floor. But if I talk to you guys who have done much bigger transactions, you have bought really low mint items, and you have a different perspective, then maybe for me, spending a little bit extra, like having your perspective, spending a little bit extra for a bigger upside in the long run might be the better option.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, if for those sub 40, those items that I'm talking about are for set number 1, Black and White Batman, and the first set of Adventure Time. So the first 2 sets basically in VV. VV only held back 15 items of those sets, or 1 through 14 were withheld, and then 15 is first mint. And then of course from 3rd set on, it's 41, and then in recent August or July or whatever, then they went to holding kind of 90 items with keeping mint 41 still the first. But yeah, it's unique if you have the opportunity to buy something like that at a fair price. Riso number 41 is 3 times the floor versus just a normal any mint up to 100 plus.
Yeah.
So
and this
cool.
is more likely for bigger whales and bigger collectors to go for the item and be willing to pay a whole lot more rather than just a random mint number.
Crazy money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is like the trend that I realized from talking to whales like you, because I will be having an interview with Blockchain. Yeah. So she's been pretty busy, so we have to reschedule a few times. But she has the Adventure Time set, the second set in VV, all for all four collectibles have mint number 18.
I was going to say 18. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
which
know blockchain. Yeah. Jane
okay.
is great. She is fantastic. She'll talk to anybody. Yeah, she's a great girl.
Yeah. So you mentioned Dr. Profit and your mint 144 Donny. So I think I read from the army chat that you bought it for, you see, 9,200 USDT,
Hmm. Yeah, you
and
got it.
you almost sold it to Dr. Profit. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. So I acquired Donnie back prior to April 7th of last year. So keep in mind, again, probably within 45 days of VV. So at that time, max sets was or max items in the app was 64. So April 7th, I bought the silver Moogly, which gave me all items that were available within VV. So downloaded VV on the 25th of February, and by April 7th, I had everything that had launched prior to me joining. And then Nightwing drop and all that stuff had happened. But so yeah, I acquired Donnie back then for $9,200 and 8 Buttercup. Kind of sweetened the deal a little bit because he wanted to be closer to like 10 grand. And I said, well, and fun fact for you, I had 102 Buttercup at one point. So,
Wow.
so, so I threw in 8 of those to kind of get him over the edge to do that. And then back in November 2nd or 3rd, I was talking to Dr. Profit. He was trying to locate another PPG2 set, including Donnie. And at that time, he was going to pay 69,000 USDT. So
For the whole set? Or just
69K.
Donny?
Yep. Just for the set. Yep. For a set.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And you said, I think it was like $30,000 for just Donny.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. So Donnie, even at that time was still bringing 40 to 50,000 back in November. Currently, most recent transactions that I know of are 60,000, 60 to 70,000 just for Donnie.
And those transactions do happen.
Yeah. So there was a guy. He was trying to add his 100th set, and he wanted it to be special. So he wanted Donnie as his 100th set. In VV, I know him as Crazy Legs. Outside of VV, don't know him. But a part of his bio is he owns a house in 42 out of 48 states, continental states. So he's got money, right?
Yeah.
And on one of my posts, I posted just like a VV showroom photo with Donnie in it. And he said 85,000 USDT. But I didn't have his Telegram, and I don't know if he would have coughed it up, but he did end up finding one within 2 weeks after that for 60,000. I think somebody on the Facebook page was trying to sell one. I think Sean O'Hare was posting that. I seen that back then, and that was a few weeks ago. So he added that item as his 100th set. So yeah, there's people out there, and with that item, with them holding 40 of them, there's only 110. Available. So, I mean, when you talk about scarcity, that's as scarce as it gets for an item like that has interest, I guess. You have other items like the 007 ticket, which aren't going to transact. You're going to have, Dr. Profit owns one, right? Because if 110 sets is max, he wants that 110, while some people are only at 109. There's only 7 people, him and maybe Ray Fixie that are max sets.
So that wild. He owns. So that Dr. Profit owns a ticket.
He does.
Oh, really?
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm in a Telegram chat with 24 users, and in order to get into that chat back in April, May of last year, or earlier than that, that's just when I was welcomed in. Was you had to have everything that existed in the app. So that was one of my ambitions. That was what kind of drove me. You had to be a player. You had to. I mean, each Moogly was $10,000 a piece. Donnie was 10 grand. I mean, there was big money to get involved in that. But yeah, these guys are crazy. They're crazy. I backed off. I have 90 sets. I don't have 110. I could sell. I could sell through 600 of my duplicate items and probably be maxed out. But to me, I don't know if I like having 45 buttercup left, you know what I mean? Or those types of things. I like liquidity pools. So you can just sell an item here and there for $200 to $500, add some gems for future drops, those types of things, because money runs out no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
Well, on my side of things, if you weren't super early to crypto or have a big stash of ETH laying around, you know, it's tough to keep buying stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody hits their point.
So is there like 20 something people, at least that you know of, that owns the majority of the set? Because the 007 ticket, there's only 7 of them.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So you have, I think Dr. Profit's the only one in my chat that's max. There's another guy that's one set shy because he sold Dr. Profit his 007 ticket, which I think he acquired and then sold it to him. Yeah. Yep. So he sourced it and then flipped it to him. And a few of them back then you had to be maxed, and then you're kind of like grandfathered in. Some people had left throughout, you know, if they sold a certain item and then they'd come back in, but they kind of kept me around. Most of them are, you know, 95 sets plus still currently. But again, you know, not all of us flip. Like I can't flip items to make $1. You know, I swear I buy and hold. That's my strategy.
Yeah, that's why I love talking to people like you, because there would be no way for regular folks like myself to know about these transactions, because they all happen off the app and they all happen within these like secret, quote unquote, secret societies of people who owns pretty much everything. So why did you not sell your Donnie?
I think it's just a bigger play for me. I think he's cute too, to be honest. I mean, Donnie's a great looking piece, but you know, as far as Unicorno goes, he's cool. And I think the scarcity factor, I do like having something as selfish as it sounds that most people aren't gonna acquire, you know. And I think that it's gonna have, when you can actually transact, Veve wants to have it so that within app you can transact for Omi. So you could list your collectible for sale for Omi, and you can be able to layer 2, you know, your Omi back and forth and buy and sell collectibles. And I think once there's crypto allowed for purchasing, and you can get some big transactions to happen, and it's all going to be in the app and seen, I think that things are going to get pretty wild, very wild, especially when you go to like OpenSea, right? And you have these 21 pixel characters that are selling for 100 ETH, you know, and different things like that. I think that there's an importance to having something that's scarce for sure.
So I do have some questions on Omi and Omi to NFT for later. My question for you, and I think your answer will benefit a lot of new people, is that you have, let's say that you have a high value item like a Donny, or you know, if a new user come in during like the Disney Golden Moment drops, and luckily land an R2D2 or something like that, so that's a big ticket item, right? The hard thing about that is you can hold it, or you can sell it and use that profit to buy more items that will hopefully over time appreciate into a level that goes past the future valuation of that big ticket item that you have sold for. What is your thought on that? Like if you hold a Donny for too long, you probably miss out on having that liquidity to buy other items that can appreciate more than Donny, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, think about it, you know, if I would have sold Donny back when Secret Rare Spider-Man dropped, right, for 30,000-40,000, maybe back then I could have bought maybe five Spider-Man Secret Rares back then, or something crazy, right? Or maybe even more of them. And I think about that often, and I do. But to me, as far as how much, because I was early and I was fortunate enough already to amass the collection that I have. For me, as far as pushing the limits and maybe risking selling something that I'm not going to get my hands on again to potentially make more money. It comes down to, you know, I found out that I do like collecting, and I do like keeping some of those items that are harder to get, specifically that item. Now, having 2 Waltz, I think about parting with one of them, you know, here and there in order to maybe add 10, 15 sets. It depends on what the MCP program rolls out and how those drops are going, and if there's a very strong benefit to doing that. To what I would tell to somebody, don't sell. There's certain items you can dump right after a drop, right? Something that doesn't have worldwide recognition, or Star Wars drop, for instance. When we had R2D2 drop, I had some coworkers of mine that sold one for $400 day of the drop. Sold one for $650. Two of my coworkers sold them, and I personally haven't watched Star Wars, and I didn't know much about it at all. Believe it or not, I don't know any of the characters. So, but I was talking to a gentleman that does. His name's Jim, and he does love Star Wars, and he pushed me into buying it. So I did acquire an R2D2 at 980 out of the marketplace, like 2 or 3 days after the drop. But if I didn't have a lot of capital and I hit an item like that, depending on the item, I would sell it same day. Like maybe the posters that dropped for the Ukraine benefit, sell that when it's $250. If you see it kind of dipping, there are some things that it's worth getting out of. But if it's a golden Disney moment, not something you want to be selling, right away. That's a great item to just hold. I had a friend sell one at 10,000 a walt, 10,000 gems. I had another one sell it the same day of the drop for 3,500, and he had like a 200 mint. He had like mint 230, and he sold it day of the drop. One of my coworkers, same thing. Because he's like, I turned 330 gems into 3,500, and then he could buy some sets. But if you would have just waited, a month, 2 months, then all of a sudden you have 20, 30,000 gems that he could have been playing with. He talks about it often.
So the last time I talked to Elite from our army group, he mentioned the concept of, and then Maddie too. They both mentioned the concept of flipping up. So you would rather sell an item and then add in some money to go for a bigger item, rather than selling that item that you consider Grail for things that are not Grail, but having multiple of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there are some things that I like to play both. I guess I'm fortunate enough to be able to kind of hold on to certain things. Maddie, I love his approach, having 600 plus of FA Captain America. I mean, come on, that's insane. But so he was acquiring those probably up to most of them sub 100, most of them probably even under 50 gems or under 20 gems or something crazy, So, I mean, he added just hundreds of them for very good cost, I would imagine, based on his supply and where the market was when he was buying them, and how he got to 600 plus. But now he can sell them, for 100 a clip, or when the market back in middle of January, when it's, 225 gems for just one FA Captain America, if he needs any gems for anything, he can just clip 2, 3, 4 of them and still have 600 left. I mean, that's insane to me. That's awesome. So there's kind of two ways to play it. You can buy one nice item, and let it hold it, like an Elsa, for instance, that's over half off right now. If you have a couple thousand gems, you buy something like that, it goes up to 6,000, 7,000, wherever the high was. I mean, that's good money. Or you can buy 20 FA Black Panthers, and when those are $300 a piece, then you start selling them. So there's just different ways to hit the same target,
So what are the criteria that you would consider, that you would use to consider something a Grail or an item that you would hold on for a long time?
Yeah, basically anything that people are talking about. If people talk about Walt all the time, right? Clear item that you're going to want to hang on to. Star Wars R2D2, any of the golden moments, those first few items. The firsts of really anything. Riso, the first ultra rare. Todd, the first Batman in the app. Superman, only going to be one of one. Things that have, again, a worldwide presence that are being discussed and talked about often. A lot of the stuff gets forgotten about. You have things that I consider selling all the time, which are like your Labbits. Labbits. I have all of those, and it's like, do I care to keep them? Not necessarily, but then again, it's something that is a low liquidity item, where the ultra rare, there's only 888 of them. So for those reasons, I don't sell them and I hold on to them. So yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Labbit. My next question is that I think there's always this battle between scarcities and popularity. So scarcity here means
Hmm.
things from decon, right? There's only
Hmm.
600 of this particular statue. But then at the same time, you have the popularity. Oh, the Spider-Man, the Batman. Um,
Hmm.
in the long run, which side would you be on? Would you rather have something of scarcity or something or multiple things of popularity?
Popularity for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't, the decon items, I like Cat Bronson. And the reason why I like that was my favorite item of the whole drop series was because of who's behind it. Mr. Cartoon is a legend. I mean, he's tattooing Snoop Dogg and like big artists. And if he gets any of them on, when you can, like I said, when you can bring Omi in or ETH to Omi and then Omi into Vivi and be able to just buy. I mean, there's people that want to buy entire collectibles out. I mean, that's insane. Like they want to wash the whole entire, if there's 110 of an item, they want to buy all of them through besides the stuff that's listed for millions, some
Yeah,
crazy number. But
yeah,
they want to essentially remove certain items. There's whales that are just they're hungry and they're ready for that. So Cap Bronson, great item just because of who's behind it. Frank Kozik, has a huge name. So that's why the Labbits, I think, are still somewhat relevant and the potential or the possibility of breedability. And again, that's an item that's talked about a lot. And that's the reason why I haven't parted with them.
mm,
But popularity over scarcity. I'd probably clip the wings on Donnie when he's not talked about or when he's not referenced as the Donnie of X, Y, and Z, or how people use like those type of references and stuff.
yeah,
When he's not being referenced by anybody that onboards, that's when you kind of part with an item like that, I think.
yeah. So you mentioned that you sold 8 Todd Batmans last summer, right?
Oh,
For 500 to 600 dollars.
painful.
I bought my only Todd back then for like 400 and something, and I was pretty happy with
Oh.
that. You said you sold a Todd because you wanted to get more set and
Hmm.
diversify, but it seems
Hmm.
like you have made a mistake, right? And now you focus more on
Oh,
stacking. Is
so bad.
okay. What did you learn from that? And has your strategy completely shifted from diversifying to stacking?
Don't sell the first of anything. Don't sell your first, Todd. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I was doing. I think it was for me. I knew there'd be a buyer in the market, so I knew that I could sell through them. Anytime you post one for sale, they sell. Right, so it was easy gems, and I think when I go through, at that time, it's like, would I sell, 10 buttercups at $80 a piece or sell one Todd for 750 or something, So it was like different things like that. Now, obviously, Todd was a clear no sell. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Realized that, shortly after that, when they start running really hard, once the liquidity got squeezed, to who was willing to part with them. And each time the floor kind of turns, that item ends up in somebody with maybe stronger hands, right? Or somebody
Mm.
that's less willing to sell it. And yeah, I never should have sold those, to be honest. But we all make those kind of decisions. And what had happened was, I had sold both of my Mooglies because I was sitting at not a ton of Omi. So I sold both my Mooglies to kind of get back into some Omi to have an easy transaction if I needed some liquidity. Alexis and I were going to be getting married just 4 months later. And at that time, I probably had spent $40,000 on collectibles in the first 3-4 months, so it was like I had to get some of that money back out. And I sold my him, my professor, and my bubbles. So I got rid of my PPG 2 set, and that only lasted about a week. I had to have it back, So I sold those 3 items off market to Bro Certified. I don't know if anybody knows him, but I sold. He's a double Donny owner. He came in to VV midsummer, I want to say, or early, maybe June, May, somewhere in that ballpark. But he's an early BTC type of money individual. But I sold him those 3 items for $9,000, and then what I USDT off app. And then once those items were gone and that set dipped, I FOMO'd right back in, and I started selling some of my stuff that I had duplicates of, like my Todds and a couple of Amanda Connor Batmans, those types of things. And then I basically just reacquired them back. So that's kind of where selling through some of that stuff came from. And then I also added like the Dragon Girl sets and whatever kind of sets had dropped between June and July. I kind of took a hiatus. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to VV just because Omi was under 0.02, excuse me. So, I mean, it was the low of the low. FUD was unreal. And then once they announced releasing comics and Marvel, then I was back on the train, and I was just back to, I sold about 110 or 90 to 110 of my early series stuff to reacquire 15 to 20 sets. And that's what happened kind of late summer.
Yeah. So it sounds like you spend a lot of time talking to these fellow whales and big spender. How have their behavior changed over time? And what are you guys talking about?
Really anything. Some of them will talk about different projects. Some of them they love to spend and splurge on what they call shit coins, right? Or coins that aren't going anywhere. They like that high that they kind of play around. But most of it's just where the project's going, and all of them still believe in VV. It's just that they wish that things were executed a little bit faster. But they're all here. They're all ready to hang out for as long as it takes. Certain individuals they're long on this project for 5 years minimum. Dr. Profit isn't going anywhere. He's straight up diamond handing everything. He won't sell a single thing for at least 5 years. Like he's way down. There's people like Hodwin, he's been tracking VV since 2018 or 2017 when they announced that they were going to be getting into NFTs 3 years later. I mean, there's those type of whales that are heavily invested are people that have been watching in the backgrounds while they were collecting licensing.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I mean, they are, when you're talking about early, like Jane, when you get to interview her, wow, that is amazing. She's probably first 10 downloads or something. I don't know what her story is, but I know it's like right there. I know she has a wild Donny story herself, with having owned probably all of them at one point. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I saw I knew about her Donny story from you because you mentioned it in a chat. So that's why. Have you seen more whales coming in, or
just the ones that everybody kind of sees? Ray Fixie surprised everybody. Dr. Profit. You see the other people that are kind of like in app that have 2,000 collectibles. Danny Boy, Lalak, or LAAC, something like that. I watch him. He'll fluctuate between 2,000 and 1,500 collectibles, and then all of a sudden he'll be back at 2,100. So I know he kind of plays market. And I talked to him in a separate conversation, and it was basically just his fees. I think he's in Australia, or he's somewhere where the fees are very high, like 12% gem fees. So he just flips the heck out of the market. So everybody's got their strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think more whales will be coming into VV in the future, or it's just gonna be okay?
100%. Yeah. The biggest thing. There are people that love to take risk. Somebody like myself, I'm comfortable taking risk. Again, that's just part of being patient and seeing it through. But there are some other people that they're more cautious with their investments. They want to know that they can extract liquidity if needed. So I think when you see that happen, you're gonna have a lot of early people about when you and I started and stuff that are gonna maybe pull out a couple of their duplicate items, get some of that cash back in hand, that type of thing. But I think that you're gonna see more people confident in spending the rest of the nut. They're gonna be confident, really going crazy.
And what would that catalyst be? Would be the MLT, the money transfer license cashing out, or would it be Omi to NFT?
Combination of both of those for sure. Once I think the biggest thing is knowing that you can pull cash out. That's kept people at bay 100%. Veve didn't anticipate having, and they've mentioned, over 60,000 users by year end of last year. And then they end up having, 1 million downloads and at least, 200,000 Twitter followers, if you want to gauge it as who's real and who's got 6, 7, 8 accounts. But they didn't anticipate what we're going through at all. So I think that having a way to pull out your money would bring a lot of users in, would bring a lot of those people that are just like on the fence.
Yeah. So that is a very positive sign. And so you have been with Veve very early. You talked to David personally. What do you think about the recent FUD, as they call it, with cashing out? And so it's actually a two-part question. People are upset about cashing out, and people are upset about Omi with the burning mechanism kind of being like in the fog right now. So let's talk about cashing out first. Do you expect it to be this late, or like did you expect it to be delayed this far? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, so no, I didn't. They were talking MTL second quarter of last year, so there's a lot of people that have been hanging out for that long. Now, me personally, once we can cash out, I don't plan on selling anything to cash out, right? So again, that just comes down to just being patient. I want to see it through. I want to see VVVerse happening. I want to see, in-app like drop parties, or in-web drop parties in the VVVerse. I want to be a part of like all of that. I want to be able to use my Omi to buy a home in VVVerse that's going to be offered to the MCP pros, those types of things, all exciting things. I think what happens with a lot of the FUD is people forget all of the awesome content that's still coming. I mean, there's still some very cool things that are going to be happening. And I think people just need to, everybody just kind of like zooms in as to what's happening this week or what happened last week. And instead you just got to like pull yourself back. Did I think buying any of those items early on in February or January, or not January, February or March of last year was going to net me what it has? Not a chance. I didn't expect anything more than a couple X. You know what I mean? So I think people, when they're FUD or feeling that way, you just have to remember that, like, just take yourself out of the equation, sit back, relax, chill out. Things are good, and we're in good hands. You wouldn't have $100 million deal with Givenchy, I believe, or Marvel and DC and Disney's first NFTs. I mean, those brands do their due diligence, and you just need to trust that they did their homework on the company and what David and Dan have planned. So just put your trust in them, I guess.
Yeah. So you mentioned Omi quite a bit. Do you have more Omi than collectibles?
Oh, I wish.
Oh, okay.
I wish. I have 3 million Omi myself. My wife has 457K. Now our entries are not the greatest. My dollar cost average is probably in the 6.8 level, like 0.0068, 7, somewhere in that ballpark, so your 3 million was 21 grand today. It's not that. It's nowhere near that, Yeah. And for her 457,000 that she bought was up at the 0.009. That was just off the highs of March of last year when it was a penny and a third, 1.3 cents. And it kind of dipped to the 9.0 level. And then she bought $4,500.
Did you tell her to buy it?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I did tell her to buy Omi, and
she still married you.
Yeah, she still married me.
She's a
6
keeper.
months later. She's a keeper for sure. Yeah, 100%.
What do you think about the burning mechanism? Now it's kind of getting muddy with the with the definition of Omi as a utility token and Omi as a security. Sorry, utility token or a security. I think people were saying that if burning were to continue to happen, then Omi cannot be a utility token. It has to be a security token, and that will mess everything up. Have you
I think
been
it
like,
just gets, I think it gets them in they have to follow things very closely, and they don't want to get in any trouble with the governments, kind of like XRP, or, you watch those other litigations happening and stuff, and they just want to avoid all that at all costs. So I wouldn't base your investments off of a lot of that stuff. I think if you believe in where they're going with it, I think that they're going to have plenty of utility. As mentioned, being able to use maybe Omi to buy, whether it's accessories for your avatar or different showroom pieces, or buying a VVVerse, a home in VV, which is kind of what they've talked about in AMAs and stuff like that. Is MCP Pro levels will be allowed to basically use Omi to buy maybe real estate within within web their design, and I think that to me is enough reason to hold on to my Omi. And I think it will recover, 100%. And right now too, you have a lot of volatility in all the markets, so it's kind of tough to put a lot of weight on just the utility part of it for investment reasons versus what else is planned.
yeah? So the fact that, let's say tomorrow they take away the burning mechanism, that doesn't affect your confidence in the Omi token, because the utility that you think will bring value to the token will be more of like the transactions that take place in the app and in the VVVerse,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, you'll still be able to use it in some way. As far as the burning, I guess I haven't heard a lot of that. That might have been discussed, and I wasn't paying attention, but I don't know. I'm more an NFT guy than I am the Omi and the trading part of it, to be honest.
Yeah. So let's say that your best friend were to join VV tomorrow. So he or she is interested in invest into VV, and this guy, let's just say John. John has $4,000. Would you recommend your best friend John to buy 1,000,000 Omi? Let's just say that the price of Omi is 0.004 right now. So a $4,000 can get you 1,000,000. Would you recommend John to buy 1,000,000 Omi, or some collectibles in the secondary market, or a combination of both?
Yeah, so I would lean towards the NFTs 100%. Definitely.
So let's talk about why, and what NFTs would you recommend John to buy?
So the reason why I would say the NFT side of things is because, a new user like that could come in and they could buy, with 4,000. I mean, you could buy 40 or 50. You might be able to buy 50, FA Black Panthers, for instance, at $80 a clip, let's say. Well, when those are 160, 200 a piece, and that could happen. Look at how fast January ran up. I mean, our collections tripled within 3 weeks, so as far as value goes, right? So holding Omi hasn't had that life breathed into it since March of last year, and I think that's why I would say any collectible that you buy, you're probably better off right now. If you really want some Omi, then at that point you part with your collectibles for Omi, down the line, whether it's secondary market or potentially when that's integrated, maybe in Q2 of this year. That's kind of my opinion on it. If those go to $300 a piece, and all of a sudden you have 15,000 gem value,
right?
Worst case scenario, you cut that in by 40% or 30%, sell in secondary, and you have double your money to buy 2 million Omi, because chances of that going to 0.008 by the time that the market recovers in the app is different. I'm sure that the NFTs are going to go up a lot quicker than what the Omi token is going to.
Yeah, that is a very valid point. So with $4,000, and let's say that John buys 4,000 gems, he doesn't buy gems off app. What would be 5 collectibles, and 5 collectibles that you recommend him to buy? And let's say that the maximum value of a collectible cannot exceed 2,000 gems, because new users might not be comfortable with spending that much money on just a
Mhm.
few items. They might want to spread out a little bit. So which five would you recommend this guy John to buy?
Ooh, gosh, that's a tough. That's a good one. I would say. I would say honestly, if they're looking, it depends on what their goal is, right? If it's to uh, double. If Elsa, where's Elsa at right now? Is she a couple thousand? I haven't looked
Maybe
in a
like in the mid 2000s.
for sure.
Uh,
Her then, 100%.
okay,
If she's around $2,000, I'm gonna peg for her,
okay,
because that is a nice looking NFT. The amount of detail that's involved. It's a Disney first. Um, it's an awesome piece to have. And then, I would gear up towards having like a liquidity pool, an item that has good potential. And I would look at things season one. And the reason why I would look at season one specifically is just the 2.5% transaction on the selling side of it.
hmm,
So if I wanted to create like future money to kind of take and use, I'd look at something like Buttercup, for instance, or Blossom, where they're at 180 or $200 a piece. But I personally sold the Buttercup for 550 back in January. So I mean that's a good increase. I mean, you could see a double out of those items, and there's only 4,000 Buttercup and only 5,000 Blossom. So those types of items, and you're only paying a 2.5% fee on it. So that's the best thing.
I just looked at Elsa. She's at around 1800.
Perfect item to buy.
Yeah, so you have 4,000, 1800 for Elsa, and the rest, was it 3,200? No, uh, 2,200
2,200. Yep.
will be for season one items with
Yeah, I
with low
found something
transaction
that's.
fee.
Yep, exactly. Low transaction fee. Yeah, 100%. Because if they want to add, like, let's say they wanted to add an R2D2 or something like that, I mean, you're going to need to basically run through two full cycles, which is going to be a bullish move, and then sell everything, and then go back into like a bearish position, bearish move to kind of acquire more of the stuff. That's kind of your only way to really expand your collection if you are capped at a $4,000, hard money spent. If that's your budget and that's it, you have to play the market like that.
So I saw somewhere on Twitter that the low transaction items don't hold the value as well as a Disney or Marvel item, just because people
hmm
are less willing to let go like an item with 8.5% transaction fee.
hmm
What do you think about that? Because you mentioned that you recommend getting something with a low transaction fee, but
hmm
I think if you get it, the value of those items might not hold as well as something like Marvel with 8.5% transaction fee. Does it change your
You're
mind?
right.
Or?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah, because so then if I'm looking at how can I add future money, or future, you can pull out would be, is going to be something like a Black Panther, or something that has more of a name, like a large name. Maybe even the common Spider-Man. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a no-brainer. I mean, definitely have that. Those types of items. And part of it is because of how big that fan base is. I mean, it is huge, and that might outweigh that 6% difference. Definitely would.
I do agree with you that season one items will always be sought after in the future, regardless of the transaction fee.
hmm
I mean, like if there's a transaction fee, I'm just gonna raise the price a little bit, and I bet somebody
hmm
would be willing to pay an extra fee percentage to get it in the future.
100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think two problems that new users get is number one, gem management, and number two, getting scammed for buying items off the app, like we see on Facebook all the time. So let's talk about
hmm
gem management first. Do you manage your gem at all? And what would you recommend somebody new to manage their gems is so that they can get drops, but at the same time prepare themselves for opportunities that will only take place during these current dips.
Yeah. So that is my worst. The worst thing for me is managing gems.
Okay.
I can't keep 5 gems in my account. You know, I'm always shopping and always spending more, I guess, as far as like if there's a drop coming up, I gem up. You know, I don't really sell through anything to acquire that item, for instance. So now things might change going forward, but yeah. So going forward, you know, if somebody were to come in and they hit their first few drops, you know, and they sell a few things and they have some gems sitting around, what I would look at is what are the things that had a ton of interest and are dipped at a good margin right now, and then you buy those, and then when the market recovers, when we go back to like a mid-January type of bullish move, then you part with those items, and then you just wait.
Yeah,
you just wait. You just sit on the gems, don't buy anything, you know, and kind of hang out with some gems. But I haven't done that. I think the most gems that I've had in my account would maybe be 5,500. And that was when I was buying the him. I was selling items to buy him back in summer. So yeah, I don't keep a lot of gems around. It's tough for me.
do you do research before you buying something?
Not really, to be honest. I just buy.
You just based on your feeling?
Yeah, 100%. So definitely based on feeling. For instance, a good example of that would be the Mickey hat. A lot of my friends didn't understand it, but I love Mickey and early items like that, Disney. So I thought that was going to be a great piece. So me and my brother and I we both bought one at about 375, which was the very lowest it ever hit on drop day. Because to me, it just felt like a no-brainer, just based on existing. I don't know, watching Disney growing up and different things. It's like, that's Mickey's hat, you know. But some people might not feel that way. So just buy what you know. Maybe not necessarily what you love, but buy what you know. You know, buy the items that you know have a huge rep, that feel too cheap. Woody the other day at $200, you know, there's something that kind of made sense in the moment. And I think that'll be a 500 plus item. And so like that set, because I have poor gem management, I haven't added that set yet. Pixar, I'd love to say I had 20, you know, Woodies or something, but I have 62 gems in my account probably right now, but 1,000 plus collectibles just hanging out, ready to be spent.
So I like your point of collecting what you know instead of what you love, because for me, the lesson that I always tell myself is don't buy what you like, but buy what you have educated yourself to like. Because, you know, for some people like yourself, you have a really good sense of what collectibles to buy, what collectible will become valuable, and what collectibles to avoid. But for somebody like me, I don't have that sense. So I'm from Vietnam. I grew up in Vietnam. I came here a few years ago. I don't have that childhood of, you know, all these superheroes and Disney like many people have. For me, because I'm from a completely foreign country, so for me, when I try to buy something, it has to be through research. Like if I were to buy things that I love, then I will usually make terrible decisions. That's usually the case. Yeah.
Or you might overpay on it because of what your love for it. You know, you might end up spending a little bit too much money, which I've done plenty of times. You know, where you buy something at not the greatest entry.
Yeah,
you know, for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's why I make
these. With that.
That's why I make these review videos, because every time I make these videos, I have to do a ton of research on certain collectibles. And that's usually when I realize, I probably have to get more of these because they are so valuable. A lot of people that I see on Facebook I think a lot of people have posts about them being scammed. Have you been scammed before? And what would you advise new users so that they don't get scammed?
I haven't been scammed with VV once, not at all.
Okay.
And I bought up 32 Ultraman. There was early back, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but the Ultraman drop, there was a Reddit post of a showroom which had 17 common Ultraman flying in the air, and there were there was 10 of those, and there was 5 Ace. in it. That was my drop day.
Oh,
So
really?
I had a group of friends. I had a couple of my friends who were helping me out. I think I spent a couple $1,000 that drop on Ultraman, and I literally hit like 29 of that drop, and that caused a Reddit post, which people were pretty ticked off. Early VV early drops, you could take advantage. If you had gems, you could take advantage of the drops. You could just keep buying them, right? Some people's phones would glitch out. Some would keep working. My friend had an iPhone 8 where he could just keep buying. He could keep buying the drop while other people, their phone had crashed. It was crazy. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. So,
but being scammed, I haven't been scammed once. And again, I was buying a couple of those Ultraman for like $150 Cash App, Venmo, that type of thing, just directly. And I think the reason why I didn't is I had a hard policy, and I had 600-700 collectibles or somewhere in that ballpark at the time, definitely over 600 when I was buying some of that stuff. So, and 30-40 sets, whatever it was. So what I would do is I was just screenshotting my stash, and I said, I have zero intentions of ripping you off. And I would send that to people, and people would send me their stuff directly. And I think it just comes down to they had trust because of my position. And at that time I was very active in Telegram. So fortunately, no, I never had any of those pains, because most of the people I was transacting with maybe only had 10, 15 collectibles, and they're like, yeah, this guy's not going to rip me off. And they just felt that vibe. And that's the truth. I mean, anybody, you could send me a Donny right now, I'd send it back to you. I just have no intentions of being a bad player. So,
but you have like several hundred collectibles. It's easy
I
for
had
people
leverage.
it's easy for people to trust you. But let's say that you are trying to buy my Elsa. I have 5 collectibles. I don't have an avatar photo on VV app. What should I do to, well, like, how do you trust me? I guess that's my question. And do you always send first, or like,
I always was sent first. Yeah.
You always send first?
I was the one that received first.
Okay.
Whoever I would transact with had to send me first. Yes. But for somebody that, I understand your question, for somebody that isn't in that position, maybe, Blockchain Jane, use her, use Harris, Ryan, the real account, not any of his fakes. And if you need any double verification, just DM me. I'm in chats with them and stuff. So that's the thing with Telegram. The nice thing with it is, if I needed to cross-reference anybody, I was in the master collector chat of the Robin was a Telegram escrow agent for a very long time. Cabo, all of those guys were in this chat as well, so I could cross-reference them and make sure they were in the same chat as me when I was talking to them directly. So I think the biggest thing with people that are trying to transact off app, have patience. I mean, that's your only way to avoid that. Sell for gems in the app, and then it's unfortunate you have to have patience, waiting. If your car breaks down, you have those types of problems going on. It's tough to create that cash instantly. There's a lot of trust involved, and you just have to have a good broker, I guess, or have a good escrow agent. Yeah. But you got to know who. I would never do, Joe Schmo off of Facebook. I ain't doing those type of transactions, I guess. And I advise against that for sure. Use somebody you trust, contact somebody. If you see me in Discord, just hit me up or something. I mean, geez, don't go through somebody who, just the shady, the weird name characters, out there that are in app or whatever. It's just avoid all that.
So always go find and use credible escrows.
Ask around, get references, for sure. Ask 5-10 people about a certain person,
Yeah.
Have you done a transaction with Will? Have you done a transaction with DylansCollection? That type of stuff, and just do your research, because it's, man, I mean, these people that are losing wallets or losing items.
Oh yeah.
I feel for them. That's crazy.
Yeah. Where do you think VV will get to in 9 months, which is at the end of 2022, 3 years, 5 years? How do you imagine Veve Collectibles in the future? Near future and distant future?
Near future, solving all the problems that are addressed constantly on Twitter.
Yeah.
your MTL, all that stuff. I think that those things will be handled this year. I think that MTL, Omi to NFT, MCP, OUP, those things, which they're going to address midweek this week. There will be a recorded addressing all of that stuff. Which again, the reason why I invested so much money so quick was because of Dan and David and their visual representation of themselves in a format like this, that have me invested in who they are and what their mission was. So having that back is huge. And that's one of the things that I expressed to them. And it was reciprocated, I think, hopefully. So, I think he's heard that from a lot of people, where are you guys? That type of thing. So short term, I think they will address all those things this year. 3 years from now, I mean, we're going to be having, it'll be crazy. So you'll have the VVVerse, everybody that is MCP Pro and above will have land down on the base floor. Anybody else that's maybe a new collector or something will have the current 2.0 showroom 2.0 style format. That'll be their VV home. And you'll be able to invite people in. You'll be able to have, burn parties where you'll be able to burn certain collectibles. I have 60 BMOs, for instance, and let's say I wanted to burn off 10 of them. So when you burn a collectible, you'll get given some sort of reward. They haven't really determined that yet. But if there's a good enough benefit, there will be parties like that that'll be hosted in VVVerse, where everybody's in AR or walking around. And I think that there's going to be some really cool stuff to come for sure. 5 years. Wow. I wasn't even sure that I'd be in this project for longer than a few months, to be honest. So to think that far out, I think the biggest thing is just seeing where it is. I mean, it's crazy that Instagram announced that you'll be able to display your NFTs that you own, different stuff like that. So seeing other huge tech companies like that really adapt to this it's reassuring. It's knowing that we've all that's watching this video have made the right move with choosing Veve. To be honest, there's a lot of other programs where they don't have an app, or you're exchanging for ETH, you're paying a ton of gas fees and those types of things. And those are here today. They're gone in 6 months, at best, if they can keep everybody happy. There's certain things like World of Women that'll stay around. Your normal, like your OG CryptoPunks or yeah. So they'll be around, and stuff like that. But I think that IP is going to win in the end, versus somebody's name. You're going to have all these life coaches and different things that are going to launch different projects. And it's going to, they're going to have some utilities and stuff involved in owning their collectibles. So it'll be interesting to see that stuff. But at any point, Disney can change that with VV2 and say that, owning a golden moment gets you free soda for the day at the park, or gets you half off a ticket, or, there's a lot of utility that they could add. If you own, season 1 black and white Batman, you get free tickets to the next premiere. There's a lot of utility that could come out. So hopefully those types of things are integrated within the next 5 years, where there's like a very strong utility, where there's a reason to really hold that item. I think that'll be cool.
At a macro level, I am very bullish on Veve. I think that's why I invest so much into the project, time and energy and money too. But there's been delays for the past, so many delays over the past year, and macro, I'm very bullish. Micro, I don't know. So yeah, I think
I know what you're feeling.
Yeah, I have certain doubts whether like a VVVerse is huge, So
and I think it's beneficial for somebody like you to talk to somebody like myself who is overly committed and can see with see that what's going to happen. Or who is tied to people that are 5 years long on the project. So to me, whenever I'm feeling that way, like how you might be feeling or how people are feeling right now, like, oh my gosh, I paid $1,700 for the Croc statue and it's $590 or whatever,
Yeah.
It's like $600. those things happen, and you just have to let it play out. It's painful, right? It's not a cool feeling when you're in the red on some of these items. And trust me, 10% of my collection and most of the stuff that I purchased recent probably is, because I'm a drop day buyer a lot of times. And sometimes after the drop is when the best time to buy is. I don't have much patience with it. So when you're going through those lows in emotion, you have to refresh yourself on why you were so committed and or what you loved about the project and what made you double tap the side of your phone to buy some gems.
Do you get drops often, or do you always have to buy from the secondary market?
I do hit drops from time to time. Greatest successes are actually hitting both of my wallets on the drop. So my wife hit one.
Oh my god!
So my wife hit a walt at home, and I had to like call her 3 minutes prior, right? Remind her that there's a drop going on, because she doesn't pay much attention. She's not in VV. She's there to help me, right? And I had preloaded her account and my account with the gems. And yeah, man. Yeah, I hit mine at work, and she hit hers at home, and she calls me and she's like super ecstatic and just freaking out. And I was thinking, oh, cool, maybe it'll be worth like 1,000 gems today or something like that, because all the other drops performed poorly, right? So like Homer was 190 or 200 gems or whatever, within a couple days of his drop. So I didn't have high expectations for it. Now, seeing it at 48,000 a piece, at the highs, wow, awesome.
Those are the two wallets that you have in your showroom, right? I think you post a photo of collectibles over 2,000 gems. The two wallets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, lucky you guys.
I know. It was nuts. Isn't that crazy? I know.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantage that somebody can have on VV is just having that extra person, your wife, your girlfriend, your like family members, always. Because for me, I use VV. I started using VV in March, and for the Disney Golden moment, I got my girlfriend to using it, and she hit an adventure logo.
Perfect.
I didn't hit anything on that drop, and then the next day she hit an R2D2. I didn't hit anything on that drop, and then but I got lucky with Elsa. I hit my first Elsa on the 20th minute, and my second Elsa on the 24th minute. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is persistence. That's the biggest thing with drops. That's one thing. That is a lesson learned right there. Be persistent, because you don't know when. Look at, oh gosh, what was that drop? Oh, the James Bond, the cars.
Oh my god,
that they reloaded
minutes?
44. So here's the thing,
crazy.
and I should have known, being somebody who was around for Nightwing, when Nightwing crashed the app, what had happened was there were some people that were able to get the drop initially, but I mean, I'm talking a very small amount of people got the drop initially. And then what happened is they booted everybody out. It was a forced log out, and then everybody logged back in, and at like 42 minutes or so is when they refreshed and you could buy now, so it's like, I should have known that it usually, if they have a server issue, it's 40 minutes later that they're going to be republishing or reloading it. So I missed that drop, but yeah.
44 minutes was that was wild. But it's a great feeling when you don't hit it, but your other person, like your wife, for example, or my girlfriend, hit it, because I was so sad that I couldn't hit Iron Man or like the one of the Star Wars drop. But she texted me like 4 minutes later, "Oh, I got it. What is it?" It's like she doesn't know anything about Star Wars. She said,
That's awesome.
She said, "Oh, I got this robot." I was like, "Oh my god."
She got R2?
Yeah, she got R2.
And you still hold it?
Yeah, yep. And then on the Steamboat Willie, I got an uncommon on a drop. She didn't get anything, so I just hopped on her phone and started tapping, and we got the we got the ultra rare at the minute 16th. So two phones always work for some reason. Well,
That's amazing.
yeah. So if you have two phones, guys, if you're watching, make some friends or like get family members to try it out, or like your coworker or something, because you always double, triple your chances.
So one of my friends, he would do that. Yeah. So his sister, he would have her do it all the time, or he would have just a friend say, "Hey, if you hit something, I'll give you $20, or something like have some sort of, because he would have the gems in the account for them. Right. So it was no expense to them. And he would just, if you want to make $20, all you have to do is tap a button for 1 second. And if you hit it, I'll give you, a little bit of money. Right. So people are out there for hire. You just got to be creative, I guess.
Yeah.
Or for you and I, just have a partner.
Right.
Have a wife, have a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. And for me, so regarding the rebound, so at first, if I don't hit anything, within the first 2 minutes, I get discouraged. But this is my reasoning for sticking around for at least 20 minutes, which is the return from this particular collectible that if I can get from rebound is way much more than my, like, how much I get paid for that 20 minutes. I'm not sure if you think the same, but like if I hit a collectible that is worth like 5,000 gems, that is, for example, right? That means that in that 20 minutes, I have quote unquote made at least $3,000, So
Exactly.
that is just my reasoning.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm in sales, right? So I was definitely highly distracted back in January when every day, my vault value was going up 20 or 30,000 gems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine you go into Ecomi Wiki and you go from a few 100,000 to over 700,000 in gem value in 18 days? Like, that was nuts to me. I was wildly distracted at work.
Yeah. I am in the East Coast. Drops happen at 11. I have my team meeting at 11. So I'm always a few minutes late. And whenever there's a drop, I don't turn on my camera. Just so that yeah.
Dude, you just got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. If I have a customer show up, I'll tell you what, they're not getting the best service right away. I'm distracted.
Yeah. So you have one-on-one chats with David. What is David like?
David's just the way he is on camera. Same thing. Just gets his message across, and that's about it. Telegram, he's been very quiet lately, and I don't have like a really personal relationship with him or anything like that. Not like Jane. So you'll get a lot more benefit out of like her conversation when you interview her. That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
She talks to him. If she has a problem, she's directly with him all the time on WhatsApp or whatever. I think David gave me his WhatsApp. I do have that, but I don't really talk to him too much or directly. He would, just a couple weeks ago, he was in that chat that I'm in with, 24 people or whatever. He's in that chat. So he popped in. And the reason why he had an interest in being in something like that was because he wanted to get insight. He wants feedback. He genuinely cares, about what people are up to and how they can improve it and make it a better user experience for sure. And protecting everybody's large investments. That's his main thing. Because he has a lot of people with very, very deep pockets that are interested in buying out people's whole entire collections. So there's some Singapore money, there's some Asian market money that they'd be willing to pay 7 figures for people's whole accounts if they have sub 100 mints of everything or certain parameters. There's some very hungry people that are sitting on the sidelines. So
why hasn't it happened? Is that because of the confidence in being able to cash out and have more of a better flow in liquidity coming in and out? Or
I think the biggest thing is you can only buy 600 gems at a time. I mean, it's almost impossible. Like you can't, you couldn't physically do a transaction like that unless it's off app, and then you're dealing with, a few $100,000 or $1 million that could go missing if you don't have the right escrow person lined up, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that once you can do it in app, like they've discussed being able to sell full sets, in the app, where you can sell season one. You'd see all your mint numbers of each item that's included in that package deal, and you'd be able to sell that entire set. I think at some point you'll be able to sell, your full collection if you want to. So I think that it's just waiting until there is no risk involved. If somebody with a lot of money can just come in and say, I want to buy, Will's whole account, and this is what he has. And you could list it for, 5 million Omi or 10 million Omi or 20 million Omi, whatever it is in the app. And all they had to do was just do that, and they'd get all your collectibles. I think that would be, you would see people just eat everything up.
Yeah, that's why I'm pretty excited for Omi to NFT, because I bet you a lot of people are just sitting on these, these huge bag of crypto. A while back, I heard Chad, the NFT pirate, he said that if Pokemon were to come out this weekend, for example, I think he said that it would be a good chance to buy the other collectibles that are non-Pokemon, because everything would dip, right? Instead of buying Pokemon.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Dip. Oh my gosh. You're talking like half of your vault value it'd be sucked right out. I mean, the market would go mental.
Would you buy the dip, or would you spend that capital on getting Pokemon?
I would. Well, right now I don't have a lot of gems, so I would have to find gems. That would be the biggest thing. But yes, I would buy probably additional items of the stuff because it would be wholesale. I mean, it would be back to 5x market prices, where you could buy an Amanda Connor for $300 back when they were $60 out of the store or whatever. I mean, you would have so many opportunities. You'd have to not focus on the center of attention, and you could make so much money buying just the dip on the other items.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. When I came into VV, I knew nothing about collecting. And the only thing that I knew about collecting was collecting like physical items, like collecting furniture, statues. So, and collecting those things, it's not easy to flip them. Like if you have a financial problem, it's not going to be easy for you to sell like a whole set of furniture or like a huge statue that you have around, right? Because you have to ship them, you have to find buyers. So I was bullish on VV as a whole, but because I didn't know too much about collecting and NFTs, I focused more on the Omi token, because my thought process was during a gold rush, you could be the gold miners, or you could be the guy who sells the shovel and the supplies and stuff. So I focus more on Omi. And so I spend more of my capital on Omi instead of collectibles. So at this point, VV is pretty established. If you were me, would you recommend spending more capital onto the collectibles or more onto the Omi token that is getting beat up and kind of that is kind of undervalued?
Yeah, so I don't see, like, Omi doesn't have a spine, so it's like there's no market behind it. It almost feels like it's very low right now, and I don't know that it's at the bottom yet, so it's tough. I would say dump money into the collectibles for sure. Yeah, and the part of the reason why, and I watched your interview with Elite, right? Brown Mamba. Is that his name? Brown Mamba?
Yep.
Yeah. So funny thing, he actually was the one that lined up my buyer, D Grubba, for my Mooglies back in May of last year or so. So Jane was actually my escrow agent for that.
Wow.
So she was somebody that I trust. So she did that. But anyway, so I watched your interview with him, and I'm kind of the same as him. Scarcity. You can always buy Omi. You can't always buy collectibles at this dip right now.
Right. Perfect.
Yep. So I'm collectible all the way, for sure.
Okay. So to conclude this interview, what would be the 3 advice you would give a new user, or you would give Dylan back in 2021?
Oh gosh, myself. Buy 500 Todds.
Okay, well, Todd is way out of reach for most people right now. So
yeah.
3 advice you would give for a new user or your best friend, if let's just say, let's bring this guy John back. If John were to join VV today, what would be the 3 advice you would give John for the current market?
I would say find capital, use leverage if you have to. If you have, there's different ways to generate money, right? If you own real estate, you could a home equity line of credit. They'll structure. You can basically borrow money against your house that you've already paid down on at 4%, interest. That's not a lot of money. So if you want to spend 10 grand on that, that type of thing, you can use those certain metrics to generate some capital at a very low cost of doing it. Whereas your returns with VV are going to outweigh any interest that you're going to pay. So I think that using debt in the right way is a good idea, because I wouldn't recommend it if you can't afford to pay it back. That's the biggest thing. Know your income and what you're willing to take on as far as repayment on certain things. But if you're in a position that you can leverage, I would 100% do it. And that's what people do with real estate too. They just leverage debt. That's the way that you take a risk comfortably and can make something out of it, 100%. So I would do that, and I would buy collectibles. I would buy, if you're concerned about maybe having future liquidity, then you look at something that has a lot of interest, that you can buy a lot of. Something like, and I've referenced Black Panther quite a bit, but that's one that I would do if I was new. I would buy an item like that, or like the Marvel Mighties, like what Maddie did. You do something like that so that you don't have to worry about it. If you can buy those for $60 to $80 a piece, and they're going to be, selling for $200-300 at some point in the next bull cycle, you do those types of things to set yourself up. And like I said, I had 100 Buttercup, and I'm down to mid 40s on those. Having those 60 along the way to either use as trade bait towards Donnie, or to sell here and there for $200-300 a piece, so I can complete more sets. That's really what's allowed me to get to 90 sets, is having bought all that stuff way early for a great price. And it's kind of what people can do right now yet. Whether you hit it on the drop or not, some of those items that are higher liquidity haven't really been squeezed upward, like that item, for instance. So I think there's a lot of potential with doing that route.
Yeah. Man, that was awesome. Dylan, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your mistakes, your experience with me and with the viewers today. I really appreciate it. And I'm just a little bit overwhelmed with how much content I was able to get. And I really appreciate you spending the time today.
100%.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm here all day.
We'll have to do a second one. Definitely in the future. Yeah.
I was gonna say we're like way over, right?
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you so much, Dylan, and I hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you.
As always, I really appreciate you checking out my content. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel down below so that you don't miss out on actionable insight that will help you to make better decisions in VV. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope to see you again next time. Peace.